Arne, I thought it'd be really good to have a bit of a catch up this week and find out what's going on, because we've both been very busy. I wanted to tell you about what I did this week, because I gave some evidence to a committee talking all about how ready businesses were and whether or not, the impact of some of the rest of the changes coming into play in July is going to have. And I know you've been doing a lot of training. So I wonder if I just sort of start off by saying, it was quite shocking that the way people don't seem to understand that there's more legislation coming into play. And of course, a lot of this is going to affect our great food and drink industry. We work with the Food and Drink Federation, a huge respect for them. But, this is getting increasingly difficult for these companies to cope with all the new legislation that's coming through. So I was talking about that. And of course, at the same time, I was recognizing that actually you were doing training on SPS, which is the sanitary and phytosanitary licensing that's needed. And I wondered how that training went this week.
Well, quite right. So you are right. The clock is ticking. We are getting so ready for the 1st of July, which is the current, as we speak. Who knows what will happen next week? But it is the current go live date for the final phase of our staged border implementation, the border operating model we've been talking so much about. And in this final stage, it's a really, really tough stage, because EHCs are going live, and EHCs are these export health certificates, which are quite complicated to complete and require a lot of data and information from many sources, including the Latin species name, would you believe? So Suas domesticas would be your house pig, so to speak.
Well, I don't actually have a house pig.
Yeah, well,
moved out years ago now. But anyway, exactly.
Anyway, so we've been doing a lot of training on this, and of course, you mentioned the food and drink industry, and associated with that are quite a lot of other industries. Retail, for example. Can you imagine what the impact of that is going to be, not only to food and drink producers, but also those that sell the food and drink, all the SPS measures. So we've been having a training this week. For quite an intense training to talk about why do we have SPS measures in the first place?
Yeah.
How does the system work? Like, what are the rules around it?
Yeah.
We answered the question, why do we have veterinary controls if we have a free trade agreement with the EU? Why do we, if it's a free trade agreement, why put all these rules in place? And then we went through 4 flows. One, out of GB, so the export out of GB. What do POAO or producers and exporters of products of animal origin, plant products, and the likes of it, fish products, need to think about? Then on the import side into the EU, what is traces? How do you make an EHC? And then the reverse, because for the 1st of July, we need to help the European companies now to do exactly what the British companies needed to do in January. So we spend a lot of time explaining things like, what's IPAFs?
Yeah.
When do you need a health certificate?
What does IPAF stand for?
Exactly. This kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And
so you're going to tell us.
Well, no, I'm not going to tell you, am I? Just Google it, No, but it's the traces system that we're going to use to do the sheds, the CHEDs, which is the common entry documents that we need, and to which we need to attach the EHC, if you're kind of with me.
Export health certificate. Exactly.
That's right. So we need to have the IT system that then puts the where we can attach the EHC to it.
So what we were saying at this committee, and what shocked them quite badly, was the fact that there really aren't a lot of businesses training for this at the moment, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that it's coming soon. And I think a lot of this seems to be that they think, the businesses are thinking that, it'll be pushed back, there'll be another easement, don't worry, we won't have to worry about it. But, then it becomes everything's very last moment, and there's a lot of preparation to be done on these things, isn't there?
Well, quite right. And you can forgive them. Look at the history. We've pushed back. The thing is, at some point, it's got to happen, right? Okay, so you might have another delay of 2 months, 3 months. But depending on your volumes, depending on your exposure to EHCs, the preparation has to start sooner rather than later. So I worked with companies that dealt in pet food, others dealt with milk and dairy products, and these are different requirements.
Quite different for everybody.
All different fish. And then on top of all that, it's not only, of course, the meat products or the eggs or the gelatine or the honey. It is the fish, it is the plants, and it is even some type of pistachios from Iran or hazelnuts that have some kind of toxin that could become problematic for the health of the people. So it's very, very detailed.
But of course, it's all linked into the trade agreements, and if we're talking about the EU, we're talking about the trade and cooperation agreement, and then we're also thinking, because we also run the training courses on the finding tariffs and using them, and understanding how the tariff system works. But then, of course, linked into that, of course, is the rules of origin. And how they impact on that trade agreement as well. So there are different elements, and really we spend an afternoon each time really getting to grips with it. And I think that's a really useful tool for a business to understand. 3 very, very separate courses, but then of course even once we've got all those under control, we've got the fact that we're going to be bringing in, the customs are bringing in a new system, which is the what we call CDS, which is a customs documentation system, and that's coming in at the end of the year as well. So you may as well do all 4 courses and literally find out exactly what you're doing and know what you're going to put in your customs declaration. So actually, you've got to know your tariff, you've got to know the rules of origin to understand what you're claiming. And hopefully you'll be able to claim, some sort of reduction in duty, if not zero. And then finally understanding what, export health certificates you need to actually get the goods out of the country and also get them into the country as well. And of course, the thing we were talking about the other day was literally the equivalence of the veterinary certifications, because we've got people in the EU and apparently we're not recognising their qualifications, and that's not making any sense because we don't seem to have enough vets. So there are a lot of issues around that, and I don't know, I know you've been working a lot with food and drink. What about these export health certificates? How hard are they to get?
Yeah, they're pretty tough because, first of all, it's a question of which one. There are so many export health certificates, which one do I take? And then who actually completes them? Is it me? Is it the vet? Is it the exporter? Is it the importer? Then how do I complete them? I told you about the Latin names, but every box needs to be corrected. It needs to be filled in correctly. Then there is a whole declaration that needs to happen by the vet. The timing is important. And of course, the sequencing is important. When you mentioned, so we trained on SPS on Thursday, but then, we trained on, as you well know, on origin on Wednesday, and we did the tariffs on Tuesday, and we had people on, that would go to each course because it's also interlinked. And if I quickly explain the logic of it, so you need to first of all have so from July, you need to go into the IPAF system, as I mentioned, generate the IPAFs number. That only you can get if you have uploaded the EHC. That then you need to put into the CDS customs declaration in order to generate the MRN, which you need to go into the GVMS system to generate the GMR, if you're still kind of following. So that means you need to know about the commodity code to lodge the customs declaration, Tuesday's training. Then you don't want to pay any duty, so you need to have the rules of origin sorted in order to lodge the customs declaration. Then you need the SPS measures and the right references in order to lodge the customs declaration CDS. So in a nutshell, all of that needs to happen, and you need to become the customs geek that helps you to trade efficiently.
And we're here to help. Absolutely, we're all here to help, and there's a lot of information out there. And our next course is the SPS course is on the 28th of April. And we'll put some notes out about when the other courses are so that you can get involved with that. We're doing everything online, but we're finding that that's still working very well. And it means that people can actually spend their time not traveling to an event, but actually getting their money's worth from the event, as it were. So
what's great is what's great is that we can just start, right? So virtual this, virtual that, but we can get a lot done in 4 hours, where if you had to travel and maybe spend the night, that's just going to take a lot of time. So it works well, and it gets a lot done in a short period of time.
And we'll make sure everyone gets a note of how to engage with us on those trainings as well. So well, I've had a busy week. I'm going off for a cup of tea and sit down. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll catch up soon, Arne.
Thank you very much. Let's have a weekend, hey?
Bye.
Bye-bye.